we're going to listen to 7 schools, and we're also going to congratulate, if you could wave at us, Shahinaz, Newmarston Primary School in Oxford, which got its Gold Award the week before last. So it's the newest Gold Award holder. I'm delighted to have them here too. So I'm going to start by asking Sarah.
There we go.
Mute. Yep, you are.
I'm finally unmuted.
Okay. Sarah is from Lee Forest Primary School in Birmingham, which I think I visited beginning of 2019.
It was, yes, 2019. Yeah, the February, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was a very rainy day.
Very
cool. Very rainy day. But it was a very bright day for me because I just saw lovely things in the school. So Sarah, just first of all, why did you want to do it, the Quality Mark?
Well, let's go go through. So the reason, sorry, just messing around with my computer here.
We can hear you.
I've just lost everything. It's all right.
You're still going.
Right. So the reason Lee Forest went for the EAL Quality Mark is we believe that we always go above and beyond for our EAL children and their families, providing them with a personalised and customised curriculum in order for them to give them the opportunities and the experiences to flourish in their journey of learning English and be able to choose a remarkable life. But we didn't always get the acknowledgement for this. So we actually went for the Quality Mark to gain the recognition that we provide a unique curriculum for our children. You know, what we actually gained from acquiring the Quality Mark was the recognition that our curriculum that we deliver and support, we give has been identified to give our EAL children and their families the opportunity to understand, develop, succeed, and also excel. Also, the physical status that our certificate we hang proudly in the main entrance, and the official logo on all our correspondences that we are a gold Quality Marked EAL school here to support and provide a unique education for our EAL children and new to English, as well as their family and friends.
Okay, that's lovely. One of the things that really struck me when I was there was that you have the full range of EAL pupils.
Yeah.
You have those who come to school not having been to school before and they're 8 and they're not literate. You have new arrivals who are really successful learners in their own language and they know a bit of English.
Yeah.
And you have Birmingham-born EAL learners who've still got gaps in their English, but their day-to-day English is fine. But you have the same high expectations of all of them.
Yeah.
But it's not a blanket, this is what you must all do. It's something that understands difference.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that really impressed me. So how do you combine those high expectations with understanding that actually there are just different things amongst these children too?
So we actually combine that. So the panel was really impressed, you know, with our provisions that we put into place. It combines the high expectation. Sorry, we're in the flight path of the aeroplanes. Can you hear the aeroplane going over?
No, it's all right.
That's all right then, yeah. So the provisions that we put into place actually combines the high expectations for all by understanding their differences. So, you know, through understanding their differences, we're able to provide a unique curriculum catered for their specific needs, and it really is specifically to the child. So before actually personalising and customising specific curriculum, we take into account the children's differences, which is their language, their religion, their age, their proficiency stage, and also their emotional and social well-being, because some of them are obviously brought up in different backgrounds, different home lives. And we also take into account the schooling or the no schooling in too many cases. So by identifying all the differences, we can actually provide a curriculum that's catered personally for the children. So, you know, this allows us to actually see what life experiences and school experience the children have missed due to their culture or their lifestyle or even their language barrier. So this enables us to, you know, provide the children with these valuable experiences, which in turn promotes the high expectations.
Thank you. And you you do accept visitors, don't you?
What was that? Sorry, I broke up then.
You're happy to have visitors come and
Oh
see.
God, no,
you
yes,
too?
yes, we always have visitors. I
Yeah.
always welcome people into the school because I said
Yeah.
it's something that you've got to see. It's hard, like, you know, explaining what you do on a piece of paper or, you know, or jotting it down as a map. So the best way for you to see how it actually works is for you to come in and actually feel the buzz within the room and feel that excitement of the children and see that they want to learn and how it's differentiated for all the different aspects of the children. Because even though they might be the same proficiency stage, their background in their upbringing, you know, will alter, you know, how they learn and what they need to learn. So it's important we know everything we need to about their backgrounds and where they want to go so we can actually provide those experiences for them. Without those experiences, they've got nothing to talk about and nothing to write about, even something as simple as going to the shops. So I start off at, you know, a unit of work where we look at formal language and we actually go to the shops. The children, you know, have to ask to buy ingredients. We then follow instructions to cook something. So everything is a real life experience. It's not just, oh, we're just going to go to Drayton Manor and go on in the rides. These are actual real life experiences that children have missed out on because of their culture and because of their lifestyle of hopping from one country to another, one school to another, coming to school, not coming to school. So we enable them to give them these experiences, and this in turn actually gives us the high expectations and the remarkable work from happy and very proud children.
Yeah, they were remarkably happy, and they just
Yes.
thank you very much for that, Sarah. Just because someone has asked, sorry, I missed the name of the school. That was Sarah Jones from Lee Forest.
Lee Forest, yeah.
Birmingham. And just if anybody came in a little bit late, put your questions in the chat and we're going to try and answer them all at the end. So I'm now going to turn to Charlotte Chapman, a teacher of St Michael's in Newcastle. So Charlotte, I'm going to ask you again, why did you do the Quality Mark and what did you get from it? And while you're answering, I'm going to get your PowerPoint up and share it on screen, okay?
Thank you, Graham. Yes, so I'm the head teacher at St Michael's Primary School in Newcastle, an inner city school. And we've been on a bit of a journey over the last 4 years. So in 2016, the school was placed into special measures. I was then appointed as head of school and then head teacher in 2017. And like I say, we've been on a journey of kind of transformation, and we've worked closely with the pupils and the parents to really develop a sense of community. So it was really important for us to go for the EAL Quality Mark, not just for the staff and the pupils, but for the parents, because, you know, we've done it together, and without the parent support, we wouldn't have got to where we've got to now. So it was a real celebration of the hard work over the past 4 years. And of course, Graham, I think it's amazing to be a part of this, to be a part of the EAL Academy work, to make links with other schools, not only in the northeast, but further afield. And I'd be more than happy for people to visit St Michael's, and I would love to visit other schools as well, because we were awarded the Gold Quality Mark. However, I'd love to further develop our own practice and share good practice with other schools going forward. And so a little bit about St Michael's, it's on the screen, thanks Graham. And we're a one-form entry primary school, and 65% of our pupils have English as additional language, 26% of those pupils are refugees, and 60% of our pupils are also classed as disadvantaged. Currently, we have 24 languages spoken in school. I've listed some of the languages there, you can see on your screen. And, you know, English proficiency does vary, you know, among our EAL pupils. And again, just like you've said before, some of our children are newly arrived from foreign country. Some speak a little bit English and have been to an English speaking school, but not in this country. Some are born abroad, and some have been born in the UK, but speak a different language at home. So that's a little bit of background really about St Michael's. In 2017, when we embarked on this journey, at the time we knew the school was a reflection of the Ofsted inspection, and the school was inadequate. Provision wasn't right for our children, certainly not the EAL children. So at that point, we made it our mission to get as many parents in school as possible. So we ran coffee mornings, we ran projects, workshops, open days, anything and everything to get parents into school. And it was when we did that that we spoke to our parents and our children. And on the screen now, you can see some of the comments that came out, so from some of the children and some of the parents. Well, some of those comments are lovely. You know, Molly was my buddy, so we had buddy systems in place. But some of them, you know, didn't sit comfortably with me, and we knew we had to do something about it. So as I said, we embarked on a journey. One of the things we did, which is just on the next slide, Graham, we decided that actually we needed to get the preparation right for EAL pupils. So we needed to know as much information about them before they actually started school. So we introduced a home visit for those pupils. We also developed our welcome pack with key information and pictures to support understanding, and we translate those packs as well for our children and our parents. We always give the children a photograph of the teacher and a photograph of the classroom and a photograph of a quiet space that they can use in school, so that even before they've got in the building, they can make links between trusted adults and also spaces where they feel safe in school. We translate any letters or emails to the parents just to make that communication easier if that's needed. And you can see at the bottom an example of one of the documents that we share with our parents with lots of visuals on. So our school is situated right next to the church, so it's good for parents if they're new to the area, they know where to go, but also the school badge, because I think it's really important that our children and parents have that sense of belonging to our community. And we tell them the start and the end time. And then that next row along, that changes. So at the moment, we are a healthy school, we do the daily mile. Those are signs that our children will see around the school. But also our new initiative at the moment is a healthy packed lunch. So that's why we have the packed lunch pictures on. They do change as the year goes on, depending on what the focus is. And of course, the uniform. When we have our meetings with an EAL lead and the class teacher, in the early days, I'll hold my hands up, and we got it wrong. Initially, I would hold the meetings with the parent and I would ask them questions. But what I soon found was that actually that's a really daunting thing for a parent to do. They're new to the country, they speak a different language, it's a new school, and they're sitting in a very formal situation with a head teacher in an office. So after doing 1, 2 or 3 of these meetings, I decided, actually, Charlotte, that's not right, and we changed the system slightly. So there's an EAL team at St Michael's, and it consists of 3 very skilled adults. There's one in each key stage, so an EAL lead in early years, an EAL lead in key stage 1, and an EAL lead in key stage 2. And the parents meet with the EAL lead, they have a coffee, and they meet at a little side room just off a cloakroom area. So it's very informal, they have a drink, and the EAL lead works through questions. Now, when we first started asking questions in 2017, we were asking very general questions, but we realised that actually we weren't gaining the information that we needed. So over the past 2 years, we've really developed the questions that we ask. And these will change and adapt as time goes on, but I will share some of the questions with you now. So just on the next slide are some of the questions. So the children's details are important, and of course the family details. Now the first question we ask is, how do you pronounce the child's name? And that's really important, because a name it shows respect, it shows identity, but it also is very inclusive, isn't it? And I think that's very important. And as a staff team, we hold that in high regard. You know, we pronounce names properly. We ask the parents what the child would prefer to be called if it's different. When did the child arrive? And did the child arrive with parents? Because what we found was often parents would move first and children would stay, or they'd move with one parent. And that can be quite disruptive and unsettling for children. So we're asking that information just so we have that broad picture, so we can support the children in the right way. In terms of family details, we did have a conversation in our school about, you know, we're not being nosy here. It's not that we want to pry on our families, but actually we want to create the best support package possible. So we ask about the parents and carers, you know, if they work, you know, what hours do they work? Because of course, family life is difficult. Often parents work antisocial hours or long hours, and actually, again, we can support with that. We ask the parents who is likely to complete homework with the child. And again, we want our parents to be as independent as possible. However, if the child is not going to be supported at home, we can offer help sheets for the parents. We can share knowledge organisers, and even we have a homework club that parents can attend with their child after school, and teachers will work with the child and the parent to complete homework or to look at books and whatever it is that child is focusing on. So you can read the rest of the questions on the screen at the moment. We do ask parents about kind of their local area, what support they have in relatives and friends, and what language they speak as well. We ask who lives in the family home, just to get a bigger picture of the family tree, if there's anyone to support with homework, and how long the family plans to stay in the UK, or if they're planning on moving. We also ask on the next slide, questions about the family language background. So what is the main language used at home? And again, is there more than one language? We ask what language the children watch television in. The reason we watch this is because we know that we want to know really how much English children are exposed to and kind of where they're getting their English language from. We ask them what written language would be most useful to the family. And again, that is so we can really make sure our letters and emails are bespoke to the family if they're needed. We ask if anyone can write or read in English. And again, if they can't, then we can put support in place. Parents and children are invited to workshops, cafes. We have EAL classes, English classes for parents. We have stay and play sessions. So by asking all of these questions, we can really create that bespoke package for the family. And further down, we ask about the educational background. So which countries the children lived in, did they start school? Have they had a previous language taught to them? If so, what was it? And has the child ever studied English? How many years? And that really gives us a basis in terms of teaching and learning and where we're going to take the learning to next. We always ask about the child, what are their hobbies? What do they love doing? What are the favourite subjects? And that's so we can really make links with them straight away. And when they arrive in our setting, we know we'll have something that will appeal to the child. So if they're in early years, it may be something the child initiated with. If they're in Key Stage 1 or Key Stage 2, we know what the child's interests are, so we can really appeal to those. We also ask about religion and community links, and there's an example of some of the questions there. So we ask if any of the children attend religious schools after school or weekend. And again, that's really just so we can get an idea of the child's life and put support in place as much as possible. Once the child arrives in school, I'm often saying to the staff at St Michael's, it takes time, and we know the stages of language development for a child. We always introduce the child to the classroom and to that quiet space, and they've had pictures of both of those spaces before starting our setting, so they should be used to a little bit of what it looks like. I've mentioned the buddy system again, and that's really useful to pair children up so they have the confidence and the form of friendship and regular contact with parents. The questions that I've just gone through, for some parents, they may be able to answer those questions. Some parents bring a friend or a colleague with them who will translate. In some instances, we have asked a translator to come into school to help the parents. And then honestly, in other instances we've just sort of persevered. We have regular contact with the parents, the class teacher, but also the EAL lead. So the EAL lead may ask 1 or 2 questions one week and then invite the parent back in and ask a few more and invite the parent back in. And we think that regular contact is important because we know that over time, the parents build up that level of trust with us. So they may not divulge all of the information straight away, but in time, once we have those relationships, they do. In terms of support for families, I've mentioned some of the things we offer, but we have a small talk session. So this is linked to the National Literacy Trust. Some of you may have heard of it, and it follows the principles of play, chat, read. So we ask our parents to come to small talk sessions with their children where they play games, they do jigsaws, they do lots of sorting activities, they cook, they bake, and it's all to do with that language development together, staff, parents and pupils. We then encourage, once parents are in school, we encourage them to do the EAL classes. So those are free classes run in school where they can develop their reading, writing and listening skills in English. We also encourage our parents to be involved in the Parent-Teacher Family Association. And again, that's all about community networks, bringing everyone together, because we know as a school, our parents and our community are a massive asset to us. And then eventually we ask our parents if they'd like to volunteer. So we have lots of volunteers in school who listen to readers, who cook, who play games, who set up outdoor learning activities. And also on our staff team, one of our support assistants is an amazing support assistant. She has followed that progress. So her child joined us in year 1 and she started our ESOL classes, and then she came on the PTA, she started volunteering. We put her through a teaching assistant course, and last year she was appointed successfully in our school. So a real success story. And this was some of the comments just from last year. So this was from the end of last year, the summer term, talking to children and pupils again. And that's some of the comments that were said. So really for us as a school, it's been quite a journey over the past 4 years. It's been a journey that was much needed. But you can see from some of the comments there, really pupils and parents, it's a very positive picture. And thank you, Graham, again, just for the EAL Quality Mark. And it's great working with you. And like I say, I'm really excited for the future because I think it's great to make links with people all over the country.
Thank you, Charlotte. Just to say, Charlotte very kindly allowed the EAL Academy to put the question bank they use when they first start talking to parents on the free downloads section of our website. And it really, I mean, for me, it was a wow moment when I saw that. It was, why didn't I write this myself years ago? Because it's so well done. I would just recommend everybody has a look at that and find it really useful. So thank you again, Charlotte. Shaka, you are going to talk to Tracy now, I think.
That's it. Can you hear me now? Yes. And you're going to have to do the same, Tracy. I was going to say yes. Yeah, unmute yourself, please. Tracy, I think you were one of the very first schools, or your school was one of the very first schools to apply for a quality mark some 4 years ago now, I think it was. That's right. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it was the local authorities that was working with Graham at that time to develop, you know, to raise attainment for EAL learners across our borough. And they had invited us to take part in this quality mark accreditation. So we done that, and it was fantastic because our result was gold. So it was a case of, I think it was 2 other schools that were involved, and it was ourselves and another school that, and I think they ended up with gold as well. So yeah, we just sort of went through the process, meeting the criteria, and then self-evaluation. Are we silver, bronze or gold? And I think we put ourselves down as gold in most areas apart from one, which was the governing area. And I still can't say we're gold for that at this moment either. But yeah, it was fantastic. It was a great, it was a very easy process as well. So yeah, fantastic. Great outcome for our school.
Right, and I should say that Tracy's school is Goldington Green, which is in the town of Bedford. And since then, since gaining gold, you've gone on to do some more work with other schools in your local authority. Can you say a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. I'm currently working with 4 other schools under that secondment with Bedford Borough. And we've just sort of going to see the first cohort go through, and that will be, I think they're finalised in the autumn term because of COVID, everything's been delayed, and then we will move on to the cohort 2. So there's already been interest.
Right, okay.
Registered with the local authorities. We sort of raised that awareness again that we will be funded by the authorities. So yes, we've got the interest again.
Right, no, that's excellent. So I think one of the things at your school was that you did a lot of work on encouraging pupils to use their home languages to support their learning.
Yeah, and did you want me to go through my PowerPoint, Shaka, now?
That would be great, yes.
Okay. So Graham, are you controlling the PowerPoint? Okay, all right, great. So if we can move on. So obviously we've had the introduction. Sorry, Shaka.
Okay.
So we've spoken really, I think we've spoken mainly about the benefits of the EAL Quality Mark. We can run through and there's anything. So really, it's confirming your practice. When we were first approached, you know, obviously you look and you think, oh, what are we doing a good job? And it can be a little bit frightening because quite often you're working in isolation. area, and when you're not networking and or sharing practice, you really don't know fully, is your practice what it should be, apart from the research that you're doing and sort of courses that you're attending. So that was a real, you know, confirmation, affirmation of our practice was good. So that made us, we was able then to become a beacon school in Bedford, which we were very proud about. And then moving on to that, it was, as I said earlier, under the secondment from the local authority, it was working with other practitioners now and building sustainability across the borough, because obviously secondments are not for a long length of time. I've been very fortunate. I've been working with the local authorities for the last 4 years, and it looks like I'm going into another year, so making it 5 years now, which is fantastic. And in that time, my aim is to make sure that everybody is as successful as we have been in terms of our practice. Okay, so the use of home language, as we go further into my slides, we've been working on a program which you will hear about as we go through, which has really solved a lot of these problems. So this is the research. It tells us, using the home language, what it does for us. It provides and promotes a smooth transition between home and school. It's very important. Charlotte spoke about the induction process at her school, and you know, when you're able to gather that profile that child through that background in admissions form, these sort of things, you know, you have that included. What language does the child speak? So you're profiling them. So for us at this moment, we're using a particular program, which I will talk about, actually supports what we're doing in terms of a whole school approach and our practice. So, and most importantly, it allows the pupils to demonstrate what they know. We talk about, you know, the iceberg effect, sort of activating prior knowledge. What do they know, and how do we know what they know if we're not able to communicate with them in their home language? So using the use of the second language is very, very useful. And most importantly, it provides time for them to acquire the language, you know, the input and output of language. And quite often we know that when they arrive as new arrivals with no English, it's quite stressful. It's a very stressful time for them. And to have, again, as Charlotte mentioned earlier, all the buddying systems, etc., that supports it. But actually, you know, we still need to do our part to make sure that they're able to acquire language in a very safe environment without them becoming too stressed, so as making it as stress-free as possible. And promoting independence, of course, we want them to be independent. That's the main, that's our aim at the end. And we want to show that we value their culture, the language, and it creates a sense of belonging. So within our school, our environment represents all the different groups within our school, and automatically when they come, and we've purposely done that, we've made our school very culturally inclusive, the environment. So when any visitors come into our school, they know who belongs there. You know, they know that the world is welcomed in our school. Okay, just moving on to the next one, please. Next slide, please, Graham. Thank you. So how does that look in practice? So obviously, going back to the induction policy, we have an induction policy and an EAL policy. And in that, it states the use of the home language. So class teachers are informed of this in terms of intervention. That's all part of it. So, you know, from the outset, these children know that it's okay for them to use that home language. It's okay, because whether they're able to write a piece of writing in their home language, actually we can learn a lot from that writing. You know, do they use punctuation? Do they, you know, how that text is, you know, is being presented? You know, how do they form their letters? That sort of thing. So we can learn a lot, even if we cannot understand what's been written. If you're fortunate enough to have a bilingual member of staff in school that can translate for you, then perfect. But if you haven't, it still tells you a lot. Planning for new arrivals, it's important that obviously that we know that all staff, in particular the team, understanding the difficulties, the barriers that they face, and how to make lessons accessible for them. And an easy way, what we found over the years to do that, is to basically, with our learning intentions, to translate that using Google Translate. I mean, you know, that's what we have to use, so we have to use that. Using Google Translator, and that helps to give the child an idea of what the expectations, what are you asking me to do, and then accompanying that with visuals to support the understanding, and, you know, different strategies, if it would be, I don't know, filling in the blanks, reordering the words, that sort of thing, matching activities. So that's for our new arrivals. We're very fortunate again with the amount of resources that we've invested heavily into this area of our school, EAL, and all our languages are dual language resources, mainly from Mantralingua, which is useful for primary schools in particular, but we also have a range of just normal resources that we use, because ultimately we want the children to learn English. So yeah, intervention, right, and the author's in the audience today, and that's Caroline Scott, who is the author of The Learning Village. Fantastic program, I cannot praise it enough. That's made my life 100% easier. We're using that as part of our intervention to pre-teach vocabulary, language structures, and it's all linked to our knowledge organisers, classroom planning. So whatever's happening in the classroom, whether they are brand new in school, you know, if they've arrived in year 5, we're obviously giving them survival language, but we're also giving them the curriculum, and it's about activating that knowledge. And how we do that is through the Learning Village, which is Caroline Scott. She's the author of the program, and I've been trialing that for the last 1.5 years, and now I can say that we are, as a team, we are completely confident in using this program and the impact that it's had on our children and our, well, we can't say standards at this moment or attainment, because, you know, based on, you know, what's happened, we haven't got the raw data, but we know things like, you know, the impact of their confidence, self-esteem, accessing the curriculum, sort of contributing in class. We can see the impact on that because we run reports and to see. And this program is absolutely fantastic, because not only are you using it through assessment, the children have an opportunity to learn the targeted language, the language structure. They have a chance to practice, and they go through assessment, and at the end that generates a report to tell us, you know, how successful they were. Was it 100%? Did they make 98? What they were struggling with, and then we can revisit that. You can move on to the next slide, please, Graham. And this wasn't planned. I didn't realise Caroline was going to be part of this meeting, but this is an example of year 6, I think it was, World War II. This is how we could present that information. And it's very engaging, it's very child friendly. They're in this virtual online world, and they're in this village, and it has the 3 strands: phonics, survival and curriculum, and it's absolutely amazing. So please do check it out. It's the Learning Village. Just go online and have a look at it, get a free trial. It's really worth it. It's fantastic. So yeah, that's how we're using translation, the first language, to support in particular our new arrivals.
That was really great, Tracy. Thank you for sharing all of that, your good work at Goldington Green.
Thank you.
And I can see that Caroline has put into the chat a little link to her website. So those of you who look at the chat afterwards, you'll be able to see Caroline's work. And it was really great. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you,
Thanks very much.
Thank you, my pleasure.
With a little eye on the clock, shall we move quickly on to my colleague Nikki? Nikki Heron from Norham School. Norham is in South Shields, up in Tyne and Wear.
North Shields, Shaka.
Did I say South Shields? My
Other side of the
North
river.
Shields, of course. And I think Graham's just sharing your PowerPoint now.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. So I'm going to talk obviously about the EAL Quality Mark at our school, Norham High School. We are slightly different to some of the schools that you've heard from so far. If you just want to go to the next slide, Graham, please. In terms of our demographic, we are a very small secondary school in the northeast of England, and we have a really predominantly white British community. So until recently, we have had very, very few pupils with EAL over the years. So we had a sudden increase last year of families joining our community in our school with EAL, mainly asylum seekers, which saw us have a 56% increase of intake of pupils with EAL from 2019 to 2020. And in total now, they make up 10% of our school roll. We now have 13 first languages other than English in the school. And these things led us to a full internal review of our EAL support provision. We didn't have an EAL lead. We didn't have any provision really, because it wasn't something that we needed in our school. It wasn't the demographic that we had. So this was all very new to us, and it led to us in a new robust EAL policy, and myself taking the lead on that and upskilling myself to develop that provision in the school. I'll have the next slide, Graham, please. Which led us to the EAL Quality Mark. This was a completely newly developed provision. It was something I done lots of CPD about, I learned lots about, but again, not something we were experienced in. So once we developed that provision, we wanted some verification that we were doing it right, and that we were serving these young people appropriately. We wanted to share with our local community the work that we were doing to develop our provision, and that, you know, pupils with EAL weren't just coming in and not getting that support, and that we were working really hard to set that provision up for them. We also wanted some clear next steps to continue development. We're currently EAL Quality Mark Silver School, and we now have an action plan that shows us the next steps for us, and aiming for that gold award, and things that we perhaps hadn't thought of that we could do to continue to develop it on our journey with our pupils with EAL. We'll have the next one, Graham, please. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our EAL assessment system that we set up, and this is sort of our flow chart for our pupils when they join us. The first thing we do is assess English language proficiency. Being a secondary school, pupils don't necessarily have that exposure in class to phonics and that sort of early language development that they perhaps would in primary school setting. So we have to change things in quite a big manner really to meet the needs of some of these pupils. So it starts with assessment, and then it flows down all the different steps resulting from that assessment. Some children might come in, have very little support, they might not need a lot of support. Other children will have a full programme, which I'll touch on in a little while. And this process is followed and reviewed every 6 months until we deem that the child is proficient in the English language and no longer require that support from our team. Behind this flow chart is a whole EAL hub, and we'll have a resources hub with tons and tons of resources that we've gathered from different colleagues and working with other schools. Our pupil parent carer voice, which we use to inform provision, and I think most importantly for us has been regular staff CPDL and the opportunity for teaching staff in particular to become more skilled in teaching early English language development. I'll go the next bit, Graham, please. So what we do is we've worked closely with our local MTAS team in North Tyneside, and they have a proficiency scale that's based on the DFE proficiency scale, and we've used and adapted that to meet the needs in our school. This is an assessment of writing, reading and speaking and listening. Often we have children who could come in and might present verbally as quite strong in the English language, but they can't read or write the English language because they haven't been through that schooling. So this really lets us drill into the different level of English in those 3 key areas. So like I said, every pupil is assessed using this scale on entry, and again every 6 months until they reach stage 4 where they are competent in the English language. Behind this system is the markers that we use for reading, writing, and speaking and listening, they can be found on our EAL policy, which is on our school website, and I'll share those details with you. I know someone's just asked that question, so you can see how we assess that. The initial assessment steps, we use The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and we use that because it's a very visual story. It's got some easy to understand language in it, which really allows us to drill into that sort of early language development. We get the facilitator to read the story, and we ask a pupil to recall information. We then show the pupils the images in the book, and again ask the pupil to recall the information, and then can compare the difference in response from when they just had the written text to when we added that visual resource to it, and we can see the difference in their understanding from the visual resources. We then ask people to read this out loud. Obviously, this is tailored to each child. If we've got a child who's recently joined us in perhaps quite traumatic circumstances and are not ready to speak out loud, we wouldn't enforce that. We would wait and come back to it when that pupil was ready. And we then ask verbal comprehension questions, which allows us to work on the speaking and listening. And then we ask the pupil to retell the story in their own words in writing, which gives us the written part of the assessment. So back from that book, we can assess reading, writing, speaking and listening. The next steps, if a pupil is at stage 3+, we would then implement our own assessment system for single word reading, comprehension and spelling, because they would have that level of English that would be able to be assessed accurately, and again inform their curriculum. The next slide, Graham, please. And that brings us back on the cycle. So once we've got that English assessment, I'll just go back one, sorry, yeah. Once we've got that English proficiency stage, that informs what we do next. Whether we contact our local NTAS team, we create one-page profiles for pupils who have an English language proficiency below stage 4. I'm going to talk very quickly about them in a second. Then the differentiated teaching strategies, which are used in class to support language development, access to bilingual dictionaries, do this either online, and all pupils receive a hard copy as well. And we do that so that they can take them home, and they can continue with that translation journey outside the classroom if they perhaps don't have the online resources that children might have outside of school. And then obviously our one-to-one small group literacy interventions where appropriate, particularly those lower stages of language development. Go to the next one, Graham. So this is our one-page profile, which is a result of our assessment. So it starts with a little bit about me, which gives all the teaching staff a little bit of background information about the child, which comes back to what Charlotte was saying earlier, about the background and experiences of those children beyond just their academic experience. So it lets us know what their journey to the UK has been like, and what their family situation is, which helps the staff to differentiate what they're teaching in the classroom. Strategies identified to help the pupil, and things that the child can do. So every child, this is completed for every child. So even if a child has never spoke a word of English, we'll work with the child to identify things that they can do, and things that they like to do, so that teaching staff also have that as well. We have the competency scale on the bottom, so staff can see the level that the child is at, and key people who can help the child. So if a teacher was perhaps wanting some advice on how best to support the child, they can go and see those key people to seek that advice. And I think that's it. That's my whistle stop tour. So if you wanted to find out more about our assessment policy, assessments of EAL pupils, it's all on our EAL policy, which you can find on our school website. And you can contact myself and the head teacher via Facebook. We have our Norham High School Facebook page, and I've got Norham Senko, and we'd be happy to share that information with you and offer any advice that we can. Thank you.
That was brilliant. Thank you, Nikki. And I just want to pick up on one of the things you said, Nikki, about the fact that going through all the criteria in the quality mark, has helped you plan your next steps, because with it being graded, it tells you where you're at, but then it also tells you where you need to move to next. And I think that that was a really good point that you
It
mentioned.
was really useful for us.
Brilliant, thank you. Graham, are we moving on to the next?
Yeah, it's
now?
okay. It's moving on to me and Sophia. The week I met Sophia in her school and they won the Gold Award, just kind of happened to be the same time as they were becoming officially Primary School of the Year. So I'd like to claim we had some impact on that. I don't think it's true. They're getting there anyway. But what I saw was sort of what you'd expect to see in Primary School of the Year. So I'm now trying to do this whilst I can actually see Sophia. So I can see the person I'm talking to.
All right. You can see me.
So again, if we can ask the same question, why did you want to do it?
So
What did you get out of it?
Sorry.
And if you can then tell us a bit about one of the things that was really striking for me, which was just how consistent what I saw in classrooms was.
Okay, so I just want to start by saying I didn't realise there was a quality mark. So I'd met Graham and he told me about the quality mark, and that's something that I just thought is such a good idea, because I didn't know how to measure my school. I had people coming to me getting help for EAL within my borough. So I'm in the borough of Norham, and I didn't know how I measure up. I know schools needed my support to help them with EAL, and I'm currently now an SLE in my borough for EAL. But I didn't know how my school measured up. Like, are we doing the right thing? Could I be doing something better? So having Graham come in and having the quality mark really gave us a measure of where we were at, and also helped me do an audit of the whole school. So, you know, you're going through the checklist of the quality mark. It was a really good way for me to actually go through the whole school and see what was in place, if we had anything missing. It was really useful for me and the whole school to see what we are doing, how we are doing it, and actually staff felt really proud that we got the gold mark, because it means you're doing something right. Yeah, you don't get recognition for things like that sometimes. So yeah, it was really, really helpful for us, and I definitely recommend other people to do it. And yeah, it was a week before we got awarded Primary School of the Year, so it's definitely something to do with it, Graham, I think. If you could show my slides, Graham, I'm gonna try and whiz through it, because I think a lot of things that everyone's talked about kind of really resonates with me. Everybody's been speaking about some of the practices that they put in place, and yeah, those are the kind of things that we do at Kensington as well. So just a bit of introduction into my school. Kensington Primary is in Norham. We have about 654 children, 86% right now EAL. We have about 50 languages, 51 languages, and we have a really high mobility rate. So in 1 week, I could have 10 children join, and the same week, I could have 11 children leave. So we're constantly redoing our work and constantly starting some progress, and that child just leaves us. And so my staff here are quite used to working at a high pace. So I'm going to quickly talk to you about some of the things that we do to make sure that EAL is consistent across the school. Graham, if I go to the next slide. Right, so EAL is just part of our school. Being an EAL school, I don't feel like I have an EAL department. I don't have an EAL team as such, because all my staff at school, we're all trained. It's just who we are. This is our school. I put high expectations for EAL pupils. I know a lot of people have spoken about that, but maybe I'll talk a bit about children coming in and giving them the best support so that they can achieve speaking and listening as soon as they can. I think I know when I joined primary school, so I'm actually education originally, and I came to primary schools, and I read that the advice is to let children just come and absorb language, and I thought that was quite strange, but actually you can put things in place and let them communicate as quickly as possible, right? So we have high expectation for EAL pupil. We expect them to be speaking and joining in as quickly as possible. We celebrate languages in the school. Most of our children, all of our children translate here. It's quite normal to see people translating across the school, across classes, and to see languages displayed across the school. Mid-phase admission, I think we've spoken a lot about that, but that is an absolute integral part of our making sure that EAL is consistent across the school. Those mid-phase processes are in place, and I'd recommend everyone to make sure that those processes are in place in their schools. And I think for me to have consistency of teaching of EAL across school, it has to do with regular training for all staff. So we have regular CPD training for, so we have regular CPD training for staff. I have it regularly. I would have it every term for staff. I've just done one for TAs when we joined after Easter holidays. I've even done it for middays, talking about EAL children, how to support them in the playground. So there's constantly regular training of staff. We share best practice across the schools. Anytime there's good teaching practice, teacher will pop over and see another teacher, how they're supporting children, how they're teaching. And a new thing which I hadn't done, but I've been doing since I've seen Graham, is EAL champions for each phase. So have people championing EAL and mid-phase admission in the phase, and making sure that they're checking across the phase those new children that join. Because if you can imagine, I have such a rapid intake, I need to make sure that everybody's on board and we're all supporting EAL children. So I think in our school, the ethos is that we're all there to support those children, from the middays to the dinner ladies to the teachers and the TAs. We're all there to translate, we're all there to support each other with EAL children. If you could go to the next slide, and the next slide after that, I think I'll just skip that. It's just some examples of some work. Okay, so because we have such a heavy EAL population at my school, and because of the needs of being in Newham and the types of accommodation our children live in, a lot of our children live in cramped accommodation, they're on the move. A lot of them come from abroad here straight away, and then they're on the move from us as well. And a lot of our families don't have recourse to public funds. We created a new curriculum a couple of years ago. We spent 2 years researching, and we devised a new curriculum which came into play before the lockdown. So we have something called Curriculum K, and we have equal portions: a health curriculum, a communications curriculum, a culture curriculum, and an academics curriculum. For the health curriculum, we have emotional health and physical health being taught at our school, which has really helped our children. So physical health, children every day have a big chunk of their lessons outside, and that's to do with maths as well, but they have active math lessons. So we find that really helps our children with their learning, especially with children living in cramped accommodation. And it's really promoting that physical health for our children. Emotional health came smack bang right at the right time, because we had lockdown with the first COVID wave last year, and we had already just started our emotional health curriculum. So all our children get emotional health lessons from year 1 up to year 6. And so we're teaching children about how to identify emotions. They have emotional health journals. And that has really supported our EAL children as well. And we talk about emotions in different languages, and getting children to be a bit emotionally literate. Now, another thing that's really helped EAL, and I feel like I have less to do because of this, is the communication curriculum. So we have a curriculum which is designed just on speaking and listening across the school. So a lot of our children, EAL children, speaking and listening is not, the way they're living at home. Parents are working long hours, they don't get the opportunity of speaking and listening. And the old curriculum, we found there wasn't enough time for speaking and listening. So now we have a curriculum designed just for speaking and listening. And our children get a same amount of time every week on speaking and listening, and they have objectives towards that. And that has really helped EAL children. Oh my goodness, it's been fantastic. And I just find that EAL differentiation is getting less because there's so much being taught through our curriculum. Also, we have a culture curriculum, and we've just realised that we need to look more on the UK and understanding local area and life in the UK. So that's another thing that we focus on in the school. So what's happening locally and where they live. Taking children, a lot of our children were in East London, they hadn't gone to Westfield. And Westfield's that's like one of the main shopping centres in East London. Just make sure they know all the landmarks that are near them before we take them to central London as well. And then we have the academics curriculum, which is the English, maths and science. Across it all, there is a massive focus on vocab here. So a whole push has been done across the whole school on just embedding vocab. And yeah, I think that's it. I don't want to over talk, but I think I'll stop there. Thank you, Graham.
Thank you very much, Sophia. That was wonderfully brief, but very full. So thanks very much. So we are overrunning, but if you have people who are very passionate about what they do very well, I think it's possible that we will. So we're sorry we're overrunning. If everybody has to leave early, we are recording it and we'll send you a link so you won't miss anything. So if I can now turn to Michelle and Asta from Discovery. You there, Michelle and Esther?
Yes, we're here, Graham.
Right, okay, great.
Okay, so, oh, sorry.
So it's the same thing. I mean, I have to say, Discovery was one of the very first schools to do the EAL Quality Mark and get the Gold Award some 4 years ago. So I'm delighted they can be with us, as they were kind of with us at the start of this process, really. But it's the same question, kind of, why did you want to do it? What did you get out of it? And can you tell us about how you make sure new staff know what to do?
So our journey started about 6 years ago when I became an EAL lead. And then we had a huge influx of EAL children, especially from Eastern Europe. And they were most of them new to English. And at that point, we didn't know a lot about EAL. Our teachers were not ready to welcome those children. So we had to think carefully how to find support and ideas to meet the needs of those children. And luckily during that time, Michelle joined our school and we had a very strong SLT team and we invested lots of time to transform our EAL provision. We attended numerous EAL courses led by EAL Academy. We did in-class coaching. And I think we have completely transformed our school ethos in terms of EAL children.
Absolutely. And I think one of the important things that Asta has already mentioned was actually the change of senior staff. When I arrived, I think Asta had been working with staff and with the school for about 12 months, but was becoming slightly frustrated that despite all of the CPD that was going into some of the staff meetings and training, it wasn't recognised as a priority. So Asta and I sat down, rewrote the whole school improvement plan alongside the other new senior leadership team. And basically that's when the journey really started. So the next slide, Graham, please. Which basically culminated in April 2017 when Discovery Primary School at that point was awarded the Gold Award. So very rapidly, with the support from the senior leadership team and through a complete change of focus in terms of the school improvement plan, we totally embarked upon this journey, and every teacher at Discovery Primary Academy, which we are now, is expected to be an EAL teacher. And what has been interesting, Graham, for Asta and myself sitting and listening is that it's fantastic that we also do many of those things that other people have shared, but we are at a point now in April 21 where we don't have to quite do the CPD training. We don't have to keep reminding people because it is very much embedded into the academy. And the expectation is that every adult meets the needs of all children, which probably takes me on a couple of slides, Graham, if you don't mind. So I think one of the things you wanted us to focus on, and again, I know that it has been mentioned, was the information and the process by which new children start at DPA, because we then became Discovery Primary Academy, which again gave us that extra incentive to continue to improve on the work that we were doing. So Asta's briefly going to go through the things we do now for our new arrivals.
Okay, so I think it has been mentioned before about admission interviews. So after that, when we have a child arriving at school, we're meeting a child in person. A bit later in the morning when everybody else comes in. We provide the support until they feel settled. I'm Lithuanian. We also have a bilingual assistant that speaks more than one language, so that is really helpful. We have created the buddy system at school. We do initial assessment because it's part of our everyday practice in terms of SFA, which is very helpful for them to be in the right group. We also have set age differentiated targets, so we build up their English language skills. We do carry out first language assessment if we think there is a need for that. We have also do DPA citizen induction certificate. So when they settle down, we give them a certificate, we invite the parents, and we also review how the family sees the settling down process alongside the child. We do lunchtime homework club and reading club, different events across the school. We have a lovely group of language ambassadors who help out each other, and they help the teachers and the staff with translating. And I think one thing that you asked Graham to talk about was new staff. How do we share that information? How we prepare them to be part of DPA, EAL, to follow that approach. So every new teacher is allocated time to spend with me, and then I carry out a short session about our expectations in terms of planning, teaching. So I create a short phonics session in Lithuanian to emphasize why visuals are important, just to put them in those shoes of EAL children. I have created an EAL induction handbook that they can take away and read about what we do at our school. And then we provide continuous support. We do staff meetings. Michelle and I monitor the books, the planning, we provide feedback and give support if it's needed.
If you move on to the next slide, I think, Graham. Thank you. So as Asta said, the induction process does start in September, or before September actually, if staff can start to attend the academy, and then it builds up over the course of the year with the expectation, as we've said at the beginning, that every teacher is an EAL teacher. We obviously put in very similar support strategies for children, which again, lots of you have already mentioned before. But I think the biggest thing that has really supported us was taking on the initiative of Success for All. Success for All is a language program, which is a 90-minute program, during which the children are taught phonics, they read, they're taught to read, they do shared books, they take the books home once they're successful readers with that particular book. They do comprehension, so that you know that they've got the understanding behind what they're reading. Vocabulary plays a huge part of Success for All. And they go on then to take their reading and their experiences, because like many schools have already mentioned, our children have very limited experiences when they arrive with us. So we do it through real books, which is all in Success for All. They have those experiences and then they take that into writing. But the biggest benefit is that the children are grouped according to reading ability. So our EAL children, when they arrive, are assessed and then they are allocated to the most appropriate group at that point. They're assessed every 6 weeks. So once they start to make progress, then they can move groups to a more appropriate group. And we have had some EAL children who have come in, for example, in year 4, have arrived in the country with no English, certainly cannot read English or write English, but by the end of year 6 are leaving the academy at the expected level in reading and maths, and just below expected in writing. So it is a very successful programme, and we do feel it meets the needs of our children, particularly with the mobility issues that we have in Peterborough. We've recently taken on a new programme, which again is part of Success for All, which is a half-an-hour reading programme, which is supported by an adult, uses very similar strategies. And again, that is picking up those children who are not quite where they need to be with reading, taking them through that process and rewarding them every step of the way. So that has made a huge difference to our children and to the way that they very quickly, if they are able to take on, learn English and then use English and then develop it as they go up through the academy.
And I think for us, the EAL Quality Mark, it was lovely to be recognised for all the hard work. I think for myself personally, it was probably the reassurance that we had been doing the right things for those children, that we welcome them, they feel happy at our school. I think just knowing that I have put the right things with the support of my team. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. One of the fascinating things about that for me is you got the gold award and you didn't stand still.
No.
Just keep going, constantly trying to make it better. Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Absolute pleasure, Graham. And one of the things we would like to say actually is that whenever we can, and perhaps we're, you know, in a slightly better place in terms of the current pandemic, we'd love to invite you back, because I think you would really notice the difference between that initial training, quite intense for staff, to where people are now, which is this natural expectation that they meet the needs of their children.
I'll definitely come.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll see you sometime in the summer term, I hope.
Hopefully.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Chiaka, you are going to talk to Lindsay.
Lindsay. Hello, Lindsay. I can't actually see you, Lindsay. I'm looking for you, but I can't see you.
Yeah.
Right, brilliant. Can you talk to us a little bit, Lindsay, about the way in which your school went about getting the quality mark?
I can. So my school is Eastover Primary School, which is in the southwest. We're in deepest, darkest Somerset. And I'm not sure, I think we were the only school, I don't know whether we still are, Graham, around our area that has gone to for the EAL Quality Mark. And the reason that we went for it was because we progressed so quickly and it was hard work, and we wanted to have some recognition of that hard work and that progression. So about 9 years ago at my school, we only had one EAL child, and the numbers have now increased, and we have 136. And in that time, I was appointed as the EAL coordinator, and not really having had any experience, because in the southwest we haven't had the numbers that some other people that have spoken previously have. So I needed some more in-depth understanding and did the EAL Academy's online accredited course, which really helped me and then in turn helped the school. Because we progressed then and our EAL work with the children did dramatically change, I felt that I would like some recognition, and that the staff and the children and the parents needed some recognition. So just happened to come across in my evenings when I spend researching EAL bits and bobs, the EAL Academy Quality Mark, and that's when we decided to go for it. So that's why we did it. I found it particularly helpful. I know somebody else has said this, as an audit tool. It showed me exactly where we needed to go next, and what we were doing that was right at that time. We were doing quite a bit right, because we ended up getting a gold, which we are very proud of. As somebody else said, their certificate hangs in their reception, and ours does too. And we have noticed a real increase in parents that want their children to come to our school because it's on the letterhead, and it's lovely. It's lovely to have that recognition. So the area, the focus, sorry, I haven't got a PowerPoint because I brought resources. The area that I was asked to talk about today was pupil talk. And I'm really glad actually that this was picked up about with our quality mark, because we're still developing it. We're still continually trying to ensure that the pupil talk in our school is really good and of high quality. We started many years ago having, I hope people can see, children when they start at our school are given as a gift, EAL learners are given as a gift, the Osborne 1000 Words book, which I remember using when I was younger. And it's just got lots of pictures in, lots of words, lots of vocabulary. And it's really great. They have this to take home and they can keep it in school, but it's really good because they can use, they can discuss it with all of their peers, another EAL learner or a native English speaker. And the native English speakers love sitting down and using this book with the EAL learners. And we just felt it's a good start for them. It goes home. We encourage the parents to use it talking in their first language, and then the children come back in and use it in school in English. So it's just a little gift that they get that starts off that talk and that dialogue in school. They also have, we've got lots of matrilingual resources. So the dictionaries, which I hope some of you have seen, and the pens, which have been a great life changer, big change using those pens. But we've got the dictionaries in all the different languages. We've got about 16 different languages. The only one I struggle to get is Cockney. I can never find a dictionary for that, if anybody knows of any resources. But most of the languages are covered. And they're great. So this provides children this enables them to sit down and talk with other children of the same language, or with native English peers, or with an adult. But if it's not appropriate for them to be talking at that time, they can use this independently, which is also lovely. The talking pens are, as I said, a really valuable resource. They're very expensive, but they are worth every penny in more ways than one. So these interact with all of these resources, but they also record. So we have made the whole school interactive. So all our displays are interactive. We have made our resources interactive because we record using the pens on little sound dots, and we then stick them around the school. And a new child or a child that's been with us for a while can then go round and listen to the sound dots. They don't have to understand what is on the display. They don't have to be able to read it. They can listen and find out and interact with the display, which has been great. But also it has meant we can make any resource interactive. So if we've got a talk for writing text, I teach year 1, and we've done the 3 Little Pigs, and I've created my own interactive 3 Little Pig book for the children using the pen. They can keep listening to it, which is great to help. Little things like if they're trying to write a sentence, you can record on the sound dot for them, and they can use it to keep listening to their sentence. So that's really brilliant. They also interact with Matrilinguals, all Matrilinguals dual language books, which again, we've had a problem with. We can talk in school, but the books we're sending home to parents, enabling the children to talk with their families, the parents weren't able to use. So we invested in a lot of dual language books, which we do send home, they usually come back. We have lost a few, but they usually come back. And this means that parents can talk to their children about the books as well, which is lovely, and parents greatly appreciate that. And they do traditional fairy tales, but they also do more recent authors, which is great. So those go home as well as being used in school to help the parents talk with their children. More recently, we have started to use, I know this has been mentioned about using first language, but we've really had a big focus since the EAL Quality Mark on using that first language as a tool and creating talk between children who speak the same first language. And we've noticed how much it increases self-esteem and self-confidence in those EAL learners. I think it shows the children, it shows the families that they're valued. So we say if they've got talking partners, find somebody who speaks your first language if you would like to, and discuss in your first language. And if there aren't children who speak the same first language, we encourage them to think in that first language. So we're still using that first language one as a tool for thinking and discussion. Parents and children have really appreciated that, and I do think they feel that we are including them, and it has built their self-esteem and self-confidence. The final thing that I would like to say, because I know we're running over, but the final thing that has made a huge difference at Eastover is we don't call our children EAL children anymore. We don't give them that label. Our children are bilingual learners, and teaching staff, it's taken a while because we automatically say EAL children, but teaching staff and children know that we are all bilingual learners, whether we're speaking Polish and English, French, we're all learning French. So that's changed the approach in the school. We're all learning a second language, and that's been lovely. So that's my little bit. And yes, thank you very much. We greatly enjoyed doing the quality mark. The only other thing I did bring was one of the next steps, if you like. As I said, it was used as an audit tool. But one of the things I took from it was that we could go on to be young interpreters. And so we then looked at the young interpreter scheme, and they have their tabards and they wear them, and that they do that at playtime, which helps create that talk and discussion at playtime between children. So that's a great scheme run by Hampshire County Council, I think, if you wanted to look into that one. That's me.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Lindsay. That was really, really great. I love the idea that you're now talking about bilingual learners in your school. It raises the profile of language right across the school, and also equalises the children within a sort of language learning context. So that's brilliant. Thank you for that. Cheers. Okay, so should we hand over to Graham, who's going to...
Thank you. I should just say that actually that Lindsay not only leads EAL extremely well at her school, she also teaches a course called Leading Primary EAL for us, which is only available online. And so if you want to know more about what she does and get the benefits of her wisdom more, you can always try that route. Okay, it is now 5:20. We were due to stop at 5:15. We have got, I think, about half a dozen-ish questions. If people are happy to stay, we've still got 26 people here. I'll try and see, and if we've got everybody that they're addressed to here still. So I'm checking because I know the first one is to Fiona. Have we still got you, Fiona? Sorry, Sarah. Sarah, you're still there, great, okay. So I think the first question was from Fiona, that's why I'm confused. So Fiona asked how you ascertain needs.
Basically,
and if you use efficiency scales, how do you
Yeah, so
assess?
we use the proficiency scales as well, but just like everybody else, we have an assessment where, you know, bring the children in, we sit and actually chat with them rather than filling in a booklet. We actually just have the children in a group with other children, and we just chat with them. We find out about, you know, what they like, what they don't like, in that nice environment, you know, with their peers. We also do ask, you know, parents questions, very similar to what a lot of other people have done, rather than bombarding them with, like, you know, 10 different questions. We bring them in regularly, you know, over a matter of weeks, so we can find out basically what they need and what they don't need, and link it to other parents, you know, other EAL children or other bilingual learners, to find out exactly what their difference is between everybody else.
Okay, thank you for that. The next question is to Charlotte, if you've still got her. Oh, thanks. Are you there, Charlotte?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi,
From
Graham.
Annabelle. Do you translate into all languages representing in the school when you're sending out communications? And if you do, how do you manage it?
Yes, so we collate a list of families who need that translation. So not all of our families do need it, but we do attempt to translate, yes, that essential communication. We do translate it and send it out on our remote learning platform now, but previous to that it was in a physical letter. Yes, we do. We also changed our newsletters, so we have lots of visuals on our newsletters. You know, you saw the document at the start that I shared with the photographs on. We use a lot of those visuals.
Okay, thanks. I think the next one is again for you, Charlotte. You've got two more. Justine, do the play, chat and read sessions encourage bilingualism, or is the main focus learning English for pupils and parents?
Yes, no, it does promote kind of bilingual talk and play. We usually, I know someone mentioned their dual language book, we use the same, and then the activities are linked to a book or a text. And we do usually try and pair families and parents up at those sessions as well. We always encourage our children to use their first language at home, and that is certainly encouraged in those sessions, yes.
Okay. Come on, Fiona. Are pupils encouraged to help each other in home language when they're stuck? Charlotte.
Yes, again, we do promote home language. We have language of the month celebrations. So yes, we certainly try and encourage children to kind of help themselves and help each other by using the first language when it's needed, yes.
Thank you. And then we've got another one from Fiona. I think so gone, but we'll ask it anyway, which is to Tracy. Have we still got Tracy? Hi, Tracy. As part of the induction, is there a preschool induction for new students?
So everything we do is a whole school approach. I mean, we do have a preschool attached to our school. So yeah, so they use the same process as we do. They also use the same assessment format as we do as well when assessing their pupils.
We've lost Nikki, haven't we? Thank you for that. So we can't do the next one.
Yeah.
Oh, you are there? Oh, good. Right, okay, this is Fiona to you, Nikki. I think you've answered it a bit, but you don't want to say more about it.
Yeah, I think Fiona put that question on before.
Yeah.
Before our process.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you've. There's another question, which is, does your assessment and profile include information about proficiency in the home language?
Yeah, so sometimes it's difficult for us to gather that information. Where we are able to gather that information, that goes into the little bit about me section that I showed you on the one-page profiles. So any information that we gather about previous education, language proficiency, schooling in the country that the pupils have joined us from, that would go in that. And the reason we don't have a standalone section is because for some of our pupils, they simply don't have that. We've got a number of pupils who've come to us and they've never been to school. So it's impossible for us to know that information accurately enough to make a scale similar to the one we use for the English language. So we just put it all in that little section, which then gives staff an overview of the level of education that the child's received. Obviously, we're a secondary school, so pupils come to us at 11. So most children are at least verbally proficient in one language when they join us, but perhaps not in reading and writing.
Okay, thank you. I think the last question is to me. Just how does School in Scotland go about this process? Is it available to us? Yes, it is. Chaka and I have been thinking quite hard recently about how we need to change the process. Because we wrote it 4 or 5 years ago. Schools have changed significantly since then. So we're doing a rewrite that tries to reflect that. We've also started working with international schools on this, which is a very different thing. So we're trying to make it a bit more flexible so that it fits different contexts. So if you get in touch, Annabelle, we'll tell you how you can do it. So I think that's all the questions. And we're about 15 minutes over time. So can I just say to our presenters, thank you so much for giving up your time. Chaka and I were inspired by you when we went to your schools. And I think Sarah, who's not with us today, did some of those assessments too. And it's wonderful to have the opportunity to share what we saw with so many more people. So thank you very much for coming. We will send you all, everybody here, everybody's been here today, a link to a video of today, so that you can revisit things, check what people have said. And if you've got any more questions, just do send them to me or Rebecca or Chaka at ealacademy.co.uk. Probably contact @ is the best address, one where you registered, and we will try and answer them. So thanks very much. It's been lovely to see you all, and maybe we should do this again sometime.
Definitely.